was an 18-year-old high school senior. My best friend Nate and I enjoyed jumping on a late-night bus to a nearby casino with dollar signs in our eyes, adrenaline pumping through our veins, and a $20 bankroll in our shallow little pockets. Our goal was not incredibly ambitious: make the $20 last as long as possible and guzzle our weight in free soda before catching the last free bus home. Despite the sensorial and financial lure of the nickel slots, our game of choice was blackjack. Specifically, $2 minimum blackjack. Our typical experience at the casino was relatively uneventful and unprofitable, but one particular night will be forever seared in my memory. After our grand entrance and classic strut around the smoke-filled hall to make our presence known and, frankly, to gather our courage, we found our table, donned our game faces, and sat down to play. I carefully placed my crisp Jackson on the green felt. The dealer shouted perfunctorily to the pit boss, "Changing 20!" and handed me my chips. Just then, a woman sat down next to me with an awkward smile and changed $40 and placed her first bet of $2. With 3 bets on the table and a strange mixture of excitement and menthol cigarette smoke in the air, the dealer dealt the first hand. I'll save you the suspense. We all lost. The dealer called for our next bet, and Nate and I put down our pitiful, frugal, but consistent $2 wager. The woman next to me, however, quickly doubled her bet to $4, and out came the cards. Spoiler alert, the dealer won again. Nate and I considered leaving to find a more friendly game, but we just ordered another round of sodas and didn't want to risk a longer wait for free caffeine, so we stayed. The woman next to me showed no interest in leaving the cold table and even followed her $4 bet with a bet of $8. Well, that's when her betting strategy emerged. Always double down on a loss. Always. I've since come to know this strategy as the Martingale, a betting system which originated in 18th century France. More on that later. So while the dealer shuffled the next shoe, the woman explained her strategy and defended it passionately as a sure thing. She said, in order to win at blackjack, you have to follow the double down rule on every loss. If you lose $2, then you bet $4 on the next hand. If you lose the $4 hand, you bet $8 and so on. Just like the flip of a coin, the odds are that you will not lose multiple blackjack hands consecutively. Therefore, by doubling your bet each time you lose, you're statistically likely to recoup the money you lost on a series of smaller losses with one winning hand. That's what she said. Well, then the dealer tossed the yellow card out, the cut card, and we were back in the game. Having already lost $6, the $2 bet and the $4 bet, this is how the next 3 minutes of her life played out. $8 bet, dealer wins. $16 bet, dealer wins. 4 hands of blackjack, and $30 now lost. Now, although $30 may not seem like much, it was clear that none of us were comfortable throwing away that kind of money in a matter of a few minutes. And not to mention, it was 1992. More problematic, she was forced with a decision she was clearly not anticipating. Continue following her system and place a $32 bet, or abandon the strategy and accept the loss. We're no longer dealing with a $2 or $4 throwaway bet. Not to mention, her next bet of $32 wouldn't even net her any gain. It was a gamble for the chance to get back to even. Committed to the system and left with $10 worth of chips in her hand, she nervously sifted through her purse and pulled out 2 more $20 bills. "Changing 40, barked the dealer. $32 went straight into her well-worn wager circle, and the other $8 joined her remaining $10 in the palm of her trembling hand. $32 bet. Dealer wins. In one hand, she managed to more than double her losses to $62. Worse, she had a new dilemma. The table had a maximum bet of $50. Even if she wanted to, she couldn't properly execute her strategy without moving to a higher stakes table. But since the system relies on the theory that you will eventually win if you keep doubling down, she felt it a better choice to stay rather than start over somewhere else. There was absolutely no chance, even with a maximum bet of $50, that she would recover the loss she'd suffered in 5 short hands. Her best chance was a $12 overall loss with a $50 win, or a $112 overall loss if the dealer won for a 6th straight time. I turned away and slammed another Coke as she dug into her purse to search for $32. Ultimately, she was only able to find two $10 bills, which was all the money she had left to commit to her system. With her hands shaking wildly, she put the bills on the table. "Changing 20, the dealer uttered in a low, concerned tone. The two $10 chips joined the $18 in her hand as she placed the $38 on the table. $38 bet. Dealer wins. She broke down in tears. It was clear this is not money she could afford to lose. I thought I was going to throw up. 5 minutes, all gone. In fact, if the dealer hadn't had to take time to shuffle the shoe, change money, and wait for her to rifle through her purse, her $100 would have been gone in less than 2 minutes. The only upside is that she didn't have more money in her purse to place the $50 maximum bet that she wanted to place. She paused for a moment as though she were contemplating her next move, lifted her purse from her lap, stood up, backed away from the table. Still sobbing and shaking, she muttered, and I'll never forget this. What am I going to do? I can't go home. My husband's going to kill me. Many unskilled competitive negotiators operate as if they are simply playing a numbers game or a game of chicken when dealing with the other party. When a negotiator ignores crucial components of a successful negotiation strategy, such as building trust, the integration of the other party's interests, and the creation and exchange of value, they often rely on transactional, ego-driven, hard bargaining tactics dangerously similar to that of a gambler pushing harder with each hand, expecting to eventually hit a winner. In negotiations, the double-down strategy is often employed as an intimidation tactic, using reckless maneuvers, bluster, and a rapid escalation of the stakes to compel the other side to comply. When a negotiator utilizes high-risk, high-reward strategies, such as the Martingale, they, and the party they represent, must acknowledge and understand that the strategy gives rise to instability and mistrust and triggers entrenchment, retreat, or, more likely, an abrupt ending, an empty purse, the lack of options, and nowhere left to go. So what are the flaws in the Martingale system? One, like many such events in our lives, the outcome of one hand of blackjack, as well as any information about the results of past bets, does not influence the following hand or help predict the results of future bets. Therefore, the expectation that the woman would eventually recover her losses by doubling down on her first bet has no mathematical basis. Now, one might argue that you can predict the future cards or the behavior of your negotiating counterpart as you work through the deck or the deal, but that probability all but disappears when you're dealing with a 6-deck shoe or, in negotiations, a different counterpart in an unrelated negotiation. 2, the system breaks down when you adjust for the fact that gamblers, and the same goes for negotiators, do not possess infinite wealth or options. If you follow the exponential growth of the next bet, most gamblers will eventually end up broke before being able to recover their losses. Or, in the case of my story, the gambler is forced to abandon their system on the final bet because they just can't afford it. Number 3, at some point, you reach the maximum bet. This is the downfall of many who negotiate like a gambler, and it's different from the idea of infinite wealth. The gambler and negotiator will start by escalating the stakes, by doubling down as though there's no ceiling to how far they can go. But just like the table had a $50 maximum bet, forcing the woman to abandon her system, negotiations have the chilling effect if one side is pushed too far or if their anchor isn't credible. At some point, the gambler reaches the maximum bet, whether you're playing a card game or negotiating a deal. Number 4, like it or not, the game does end. Even if you want to keep going back to the purse in order to continue doubling down, the casino cuts you off, closes its doors, or forces you on the last bus home. Similarly, negotiations eventually end whether the other side walks away, gets fed up with your increased and unacceptable demands, or, more likely, when you're removed from your position as chief negotiator. In fact, the Martingale negotiator becomes virtually powerless if the other side knows your days are numbered. They're more likely to call your bluff, wait you out, or exercise their power balance until you are receptive or removed. Hey, thanks again for watching. Before you go, I got a few more videos you can check out, or you could just subscribe to my YouTube channel for upcoming content and follow me on Instagram at Eirik the Expert.